The Big 12 completely outfoxed ESPN, Fox, every other major college football media outlet and personality. They got one over on all of them. And it happened back in July, and it deserves being brought up again now because I told you about it at the time. I was pretty fervent in vehemently explaining why this is a great move from the Big 12, and it took some heat. It definitely did, but the Big 12 is coming out looking great right now based on a couple of things, but one of them is that we get a real spotlight weekend for the Big 12 with this game going on in Salt Lake City. You can definitely argue that the Texas Tech-Utah game is the best game of the weekend, for sure. If you want to talk Illinois, Indiana, you certainly can. Frankly, I think I've seen more buzz and conversation this week about Utah, Texas Tech. Probably some of that based on the portal thing. I think that's a good sign. I mean, I know Indiana and Illinois are not exactly major Big Ten football brands, but they are Big Ten football teams. You're carrying more of the conversation than that. Some people maybe would tell you Auburn, Oklahoma is the better matchup, but the Big 12 rarely is it going to be legitimately in the conversation for like, hey, most eyeballs will be on this game this weekend. Now, don't tell that to College Game Day, and this is a part of why I tie this all together with this topic. Big 12 takes a lot of crap on the reg, doesn't get enough credit. Narratively, people are always spinning things to make the league sound bad. Game Day not choosing Salt Lake City, another example of frustration with how the Big 12 is treated for whatever the reason from ESPN, whether you want to tell me, oh, it's about Fox and they've got the game and they've got their setup there too. Whatever, man. They didn't send College Game Day to Ireland at the beginning of this year after doing it last year. If we want to continue playing the Game Day card, who remembers Desmond Howard last year saying, why are we picking this game when Arizona State, K-State came up late in the year because he didn't think Arizona State was any good, and Arizona State proceeded to catch absolute red hot flaming fire and win the league. The stuff in the playoff, Arizona State picked behind Boise or placed behind Boise in the playoff rankings. BYU left out while SMU gets left in. The Big 12 should not be in the business of giving anybody extra ammo these days because those things regularly happen. Okay. Which is why the Big 12 got rid of the preseason poll in July around media days. You didn't have that. And there were people saying, well, Arizona State was that's actually a great story last year that they were picked last and won the league. And you're missing out on this opportunity to tell that narratively. And it's a small time move. Why would you care about it? And I said, I think people absolutely held that against the Big 12, either consciously or subconsciously last year. Some of it is subconscious. And some of it is just look how much we adhere to polls and treat them like gospel. And it's really hard to buck the trend on that. And one thing I would submit here as evidence is Utah itself right now, because Utah smashes UCLA in week 1, 43-10. And so the instant impression is, well, UCLA may not be great, but they finished hot last year and they have Nico now. For Utah to walk into their place and beat them 43-10, Utah must be really good. And now, weeks later, when Utah hasn't really done anything of note since then, and UCLA has lost to UNLV and now lost by almost the same margin at home to New Mexico, if this stuff had happened in reverse order, I don't think Utah would be in the top 20 right now. Like, I don't think this would be a top 20 matchup with Texas Tech. But people are so stringent in adhering to that poll and what they saw first and what their initial impression was because of that. I think that's proof positive enough. But that's not even the biggest reason. And I did mention this briefly, I think, the other night. But Big 12 getting a spotlight game with Utah, Texas Tech is not tainted by the fact that it could be like, well, these were the teams that were picked 4th and 7th in the Big 12 preseason poll. That's just a rough guesstimate on where I feel like Texas Tech and Utah might have been picked if there were a Big 12 preseason media poll this year. Yeah, these are the teams picked 4th and 7th. Big game, I guess, but, we'll see. And then the other thing that would be happening that is so obvious is, well, K-State, Arizona State, almost assuredly, based on the other informal polling we saw, K-State, Arizona State would have been 1-2. And K-State, Arizona State being 1-2 would not look very good right now. Obviously, it looks horrendous for K-State, who was the pick from the coaches and media in the unofficial polls. K-State's a punchline. I don't, Barstool Big Cat has now twice clowned on K-State, once in his NFL tier rankings this week. So go check that out if you want to see that one. K-State's a national punchline right now. That's a whole other aside. You can watch the 3 Mile podcast for more. I talked a little bit about that on Sunday, but I'm not sure that everybody around the big buildings in Manhattan is like aware of that and understands that, how much of a punchline this season has been so far. But when your preseason pick to win the league is now almost 0-4, and it feels like 0-4 because they should have lost to North Dakota, and that's been the talking point every week. It's how bad they've been. And then Arizona State goes and loses to the last place team in the SEC last year. Yeah, if they were your 1-2, the Big 12 would be getting drugged through the mud even more. I promise you it would. Like, there are some jokes and stuff happening right now, but K-State and Arizona State are like, they're not big enough brands on a national scale to register where people are going to go out of their way to talk about them a bunch. But people do love finding a way to go out of their way to spin something against the Big 12 when it's something tangible they can latch onto. And when they have a poll that's like, it just turns into a quick little tweet. You'll have the college football Reddit account firing off something. Man, number 1-2, here's the poll. Look at those guys now. You would absolutely have more of a narrative formed about that. Instead, you're free from it. And everybody can step back and say, well, hey, maybe actually like Utah, Texas Tech, that looks like that could be a championship game rematch. These teams must be the best that the Big 12 has to offer. That's cool. I want to tune into this. Let's go. It's left untainted from that. I mean, I just think the Big 12 has already won on this so intensely, man. So intensely. I'm happy that it's happened for the league. And the problem is when you win something like this, it's not like this is why I'm trying to do it right now, but you're not going to have people coming back around and being like, oh, what a great and wise decision. No, it's kind of like offensive line play. If you don't notice it, then it went well, right? If you don't notice that the Big 12 has a problem because of what the poll said and people crushing it for it, well, then it seemingly went pretty well. The only way you notice it is if, it's the other way around. You had a poll, it went poorly like that, and then people were talking about it. So thankless decision, but I'm here to thank Brett Yormark and company for that, because I think it's all worked out very well. Never understood the strong pushback to that. It seemed like a pretty obvious thing to me, pretty obvious thing to grasp, pretty obvious thing to wrap your mind around. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? I'm just a YouTuber. Okay, I'm just a YouTuber. But Kim is in the house tonight, and Kim has some kind words here. Gotta love you, Kurtz. You put your views out there and stand behind them. Much respect. Hey, thank you very much. I assume that's in reference in this case to Baron Morton, which is true. I mean that is definitely true. I have had some people be appreciative of the fact that I haven't run away from the season that K-State is having. And again, I will remind everybody, I was at least a little lower on K-State than everybody else seemed to be going into the year. I at least did not pick them to win the league. I picked them 4th. They're not going to finish 4th, but I was at least less bad than everybody else. And yeah, Baron Morton, look, I'll stand up, man. Baron Morton seems like a really fun kid. This is a part of where the TNT show and the stuff that they did, talking to him and Joey pregame, and then in that extra show, I forget what the name of it is, some of that extra coverage, getting a chance to get to know him a little bit. Obviously, his story, the injuries he's battled through. Baron Morton's a likable character in college football, man. A very likable character. I've got absolutely nothing against the guy personally. Him succeeding and going and winning that game at Utah would be awesome. There's no hate there. It's just my opinion based on what I've seen of him throughout his career. I do have my doubts that he'll be able to go win games like that multiple times throughout the year, when I think Texas Tech will probably need him to, at least in this one. We'll see the rest of the year, but at least in this one, I do feel like that's going to be something that has to happen. But I'll absolutely come on here and say I'm wrong. If Baron Morton lights it up and he throws for 320 and 3 touchdowns, yeah, man, I will give Baron Morton his props. Absolutely. So appreciate you, Kim.